What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. So, today we are going to be working on the inspector. So, what's going on with the inspector is that if we, inspect an asset and we say start changing some variables inside of the inspector whenever we're looking at it, it doesn't actually do anything except for change the actual instance itself immediately after we make changes to a variable. So it's not changing the file, but it's changing the uh, changing the actual asset itself that is already imported into the engine, and that can be kind of confusing because, well, we don't want to change something inside of the engine and then it not saved to the file. So this is kind of like I guess like a preliminary thing. We're not going to go too deep into it. We're not going to go into like file saving and uh, renaming files and all that crap. All we're doing right now is basically just making it so that it doesn't change the actual asset itself. So it's going to make a copy of it and then pass it to the inspector. I know, may not seem very functional at the moment, but it will be functional. Just right now, we need to get that out of the way so that uh, we don't change the name of something and then while we're working thinking it's named something else and then naming it something wrong inside of another file, and then it just all come tumbling down on top of us. And I did realize my phone was messing, or my microphone was messing up because I have my phone sitting right beside it, which I normally do just in case anybody messages or whatever. And apparently, my microphone does not like iPhones. So I have recorded this prior and was having some issues. So all of the code that I have previously done is already in here, but we will be going over everything that's done. And the reason why is because I was trying to do something that was going to take actually way too long and would stretch out this episode and still not be finished. So I'm going ahead and just keeping it in here, and we'll kind of go over it, and you'll see what has been updated or whatever, and then we'll possibly just kind of fill it in with some little extra stuff that needs to be done with the engine as well. So we'll get some use out of it. So, let's see here. The first thing is in the inspector. So in the inspector, in the render method, down here, you'll notice that I've created a new button all the way at the end. It's just going to be viewed at all times whenever you're looking at an asset, not whenever you're looking at a game object. So it's just if GUI.centered button, save, new rect 0, and then this calculation right somewhere if it would quit being goofy. And that right there, offset y plus a.get0.height. So it's basically exactly what this is up here for y position, or for height, except for it's just added to the offset y and has a +2 at the end, so that there's padding in between the button and the window that it's sitting under. And then r.width, and then our height, we want it to be 26. We'll be using button and button hover. But since we did not create a method that takes in strings for GUI dot centered button, we also have to create this method right here, which is essentially exactly the same as the GUI.button that takes in a string instead of a style. So it just, you pass in the string, and then we're returning centered button, and then using this skin.get style method to get whichever, or to actually call this method. And then another thing I noticed, which was stupid, was right here, should be here, 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 and here. On yours, it will say RF dot whatever. Well, we need to change that to R on all four of these, which that was just a stupid mistake. I didn't notice it before because it wasn't affecting anything. Like, it was just rendering how it was supposed to, and I actually didn't notice it until I was just now coding, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? So after all that, if we run it how that is, we will actually start having a button for save being rendered underneath our asset that we're looking at. So I'll click on, say material. So if I click on test material, we'll have this save button down here, and it'll be for any of these asset types. And if we click on a game object, obviously it's not there, and that's exactly how we programmed it. So in order to get this to work how it should be, is on all of our asset types. So I'll pull up data type right here. We don't have to worry about script or scene, but texture, sprite, skin, shader, material, font. In every single one of these classes, we're going to do the exact same thing. All of these classes, or all of those classes, now needs to implement Cloneable. That way we can use its cloning method. So down here, wherever I put it, right here, it will be using an override. And for here, for instance, I'm inside of texture, so I'll be returning texture. So it's public texture clone, and then it's going to throw a clone not supported exception. And what we're doing is we're returning super.clone, and it's going to be cast a texture. So let's say we're doing font, it'll be exactly the same. You just change this from texture to font, and from this texture to font. That's it. So you want to do that for every single one of those. And let's see here. Inspector, editor. Okay. No, it's not there. It's project panel. Pop-up, render assets. Okay. So in render assets, on all of these asset types, just like how we did before, we need to go through all the asset types. It'll say editor.selected object, and it'll look like that with that semicolon right there. So it'd be fonts.getI. Well, we want to call fonts.getI.clone because we want the clone of it instead. It'll be right there, and it'll be on these two lines down here as well. And we're basically going to call that on every single one of these. And whenever you first pop it up and it says fonts.geti.clone, it's going to ask you whether you want a try-catch statement or you want to make the method throw an exception. So right here, I'm doing throw exception. That way we don't have a bunch of try-catches, like freaking 30 of them down here, so that we don't have to write it so many times. I went ahead and chose throws. So then in editor, of course right here, it's gonna make me do a try catch in here. So then I just added the try catch. So pretty simple. So now whenever we run this, go to material, go to default game. Now right here, if I say something, I want to change the name. So before it was changing it down here as well. So hit OK. Okay, it changes it here, but it doesn't change the actual name, so that's good. So then later we can do this, hit save, and it will actually go through the file and change the name of the file, and then it'll send it back to the original one. So this will change to something, the file name will change, and the information on the inside of it will be updated. But we're not going to do that today because, like I said, that's a lot of work, and we don't really need that. We just need the setup for it. That way whenever we get into drag and dropping, then we can go ahead and finish it out. So it's kind of like a whole setup thing. And so that is it for the inspector part. So now we can just go ahead and kind of make some updates and tweaks. So on this, if I hit enter, obviously nothing happens. It's only after I hit OK. So let's change that. Yeah, I'm only 12 minutes in, so we got plenty of time. What did I name it? Menu item, menu bar, inspector, into bootloader, dialogue. OK button, JText field right here. Turn value equals. Okay, so right here, well, I'll go ahead and put it underneath it. Doesn't really matter, but whatever. So let's say action equals new abstract action. Oh, come on, don't be a pud. And we're gonna go, let's go ahead and add these in. Import Java Swing. Type mismatch. Which one is it then? I think it's Java Swing. Java X Swing. Okay. So new abstract action. That should be correct. We'll see. At override. We want to override this method. Public void action performed. And then it's going to take in or have a action event E. And then inside of here will be whatever we need it to be. Give me just a second. I want to see what's going on with this. Okay. So it was just, I guess wanting me to change it from action to abstract action, but I could have swore it was just action. But we'll see what happens there. Alright, so here we need to basically do this. Copy, paste. Field.setBounds. What? Where's field? Oh. Let's take this action. Let's bring it down. To right here. There we go. And then we can say field dot add action listener action. Yeah. Whatever. Serialize it then, you pud. There we go. And that should do it. Let's see here. So now if we go in here, we should just be able to hit enter. And it should work. So material, default material. Let's say fart hole. If I push enter, there we go. So now it is working just like that. Awesome. So no more hitting that OK button. We can just use the enter button now. That makes things a lot more streamlined. Let's see how much time we got. Just sitting at 19 minutes. Okay. So one thing that is kind of stupid is we're not having, like, it's not showing our selection anymore because we're actually using a copy of it instead. So, like, because what it's doing is we're setting the selection to the copy. So whenever we're going through here, we're looping through the assets and we're saying if this asset is the same instance as this asset, then highlight it or draw a box behind it. But it's no longer the same asset because that is a copy of this. So let's see if we can fix that. Why did that just happen? I don't even know how to fix that. Stupid thing. Okay. So let's see if we can fix that. Where's that even at? Project panel. Render assets. Render types. No, I think it's render assets. Yeah, it is. Because it's right here. So our problem is this line right here is no longer the same. So that checks for whatever is selected. Where is inspector editor? There we go. I think we can actually just change this really easily right here. No, we can't. Interesting. Let's do a material. So if materials.getI dot name dot equals we'll see if that works. I mean, it should. I don't see why not. We're under materials. So material, default name. No, it is not. All right, give me just a moment and see what's up with this. All right, got that part figured out. Stupid me. I don't know why I was thinking selected was a material, but so to solve this, right here, right above else if selected type equals data type dot material, I put material select equals material selected. So I just cache it out as a type of material. And then right here I put if materials.getI.name.equals select.name. And you don't have to add this if you don't want to. For the moment, I don't know exactly if we're going to keep it like this because of course the name is going to be different if we change it. So if we hit the save button, or before we hit the save button, like if we change the name, obviously it's not going to match. So we're going to have to figure out a way around that, whether we're using ID numbers or whatever the case may be. So if you want to, you can go ahead and add that to all of the data types down below. So here it would be under shader, it would say shader select equals shader selected, and then shaders.getI.name.equals select.name. So that is completely up to you. But if we go ahead and run this. It will work perfectly. Let's see. All right, material. So now it recognizes that we're on it. So if we change this, change it to poop, and no longer recognizes it. Which, I mean, isn't necessarily a bad thing, because then it knows, then you know that you need to save it. But heck, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see how we're going to maneuver that around. But I think that is going to be it for this episode. I know it's kind of, we didn't really do anything that exciting, and it was only preparatory stuff. But it will come in handy whenever we get to that point where we're going to have to use it. That code is already going to be in place there for us. I think in the next episode we actually need to do some runtime stuff, possibly. Yeah, I think that's exactly what we need to do. We need to do something for the runtime. I don't know exactly what, but maybe camera. Yeah, let's do camera, because we were gonna do it before, and I kind of passed it on for something to do later. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and do that. So in the next episode, we will work on cameras. That way we can go ahead and move this editor camera as well to wherever we need to go. Since, you know, our world is not going to be this big, we need to be able to move around in the world and place things wherever we need to place things. All right, so I guess I will see you in the next episode. All right, bye guys.